Haras Rafiq is the managing director at Quilliam, a counter-extremism think tank in London, also a member of the UK government task force looking at countering extremism in response to the 2005 terrorist bombings in London. Haras, welcome back. Good to have you with us again. What are the French police likely to be doing right now in terms of a manhunt, a dragnet, to get these apparently three suspects?
I think it's really now a worldwide cooperation between the police, the agencies, the authorities, coordinated out of Paris to look at any evidence that can be given insight into who these people were, because as of yet nobody actually has taken responsibility for carrying out these attacks. We know they were probably Islamist inspired. We know that there were at least 3 gunmen. We know they were their planning was very, very sophisticated. They've had an enormous amount of military training, and I think that we also know that the French authorities and the police weren't ready for this targeted assassination of the staff at the Charlie Hebdo magazine. So I think there will be a worldwide cooperation between agencies and police forces taking place now, looking at chatter, looking at potential emails, looking at internet access of people who may have affiliations to groups like Al-Qaeda, Boko Haram, Al-Shabaab, ISIL, etc. So there'll be a worldwide cooperation looking for clues. And then on top of that, there will be a mainland Europe cooperation taking place because at the end of the day, Europe doesn't have one doesn't have to, when leaving France, to go into other countries in mainland Europe, show any travel documents.
Haras, you mentioned 2 things that stood out to me in your answer there. One was that this was clearly well planned, well thought out. That's number 1. Number 2 is that these individuals clearly, in your view, had some sort of advanced military training. Obviously, we know that many people in Europe have gone to the Middle East, to Syria and elsewhere as fighters. Some of them have come back. What told you about this attack that these people had that kind of military training and that this was so well planned? What are the telltales?
Well, a number of things. First of all, the way they held the weapons, the way they carried them in a specific manner, the way they actually grouped their bullets, the way they actually fired their rifles, the way they actually thought out their escape plan, and the fact that they actually went there to kill and not to die told us that these guys were very well trained and knew what they were doing. But also, let's not forget, it's too early to say that these terrorists had any direct affiliation to ISIL in Iraq or Syria. Let's not forget we have other Islamist extremist organizations that are in play as well. So they could have been part of any organization or part of none. It could be just people who've taken it upon themselves who are inspired by the Islamist ideology to carry out these attacks.
One very quick follow-up question. In the case of the Boston bombing, it took about 4 days before the Boston police and FBI were able to narrow down on the suspects and kill one and capture the other. But it meant that city of Boston was on lockdown for about 24 hours, as I recall, at the end of that week. Why hasn't Paris done the same thing?
I think, first of all, people in Paris were shocked at what actually happened. They shouldn't have been, because they've had some recent terrorist attacks in the last few weeks. Secondly, I think the scale of what happened and the way, the audacious manner in which these terrorist activities were carried out was something that actually startled the French authorities. Also, I think it's very, very hard to actually lock down Paris and France per se because of the Schengen visa and the way that free travel is actually possible in mainland Europe.
Haras, thank you very much for being with us. Haras Rafiq, Managing Director of Quilliam. Thanks again.